Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Parks, Arts, and Community Service Commission for the City of Costa Mesa for June 27th, 2019. I will call the meeting to order at 6:04. Would we all please rise and join Commissioner Rutherford for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. And at this time, we have the administration of oath of office for our newly appointed Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commissioners. We're very excited to have Charlene Aschendorf and Kelly Frager joining us this evening. So if you would please meet, yes, City Clerk Brenda Green, and she will administer the oath. Congratulations and thank you for joining us.
Is this a good angle, Dane? Is this a good spot for the cameras? Okay. All right, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic? That you bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California? That you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which you're about to enter?
I do.
Okay, congratulations and welcome. Can we get your signature here, please? You sign there. It's my own. Okay. And here. This one you can keep.
Cool, thank you.
That one's yours. And these two are for Charlene. Okay.
All right, it's official, and at this time, we would like to take a few photos. So if all the commissioners would join us down in front of the dais, we can do photos, and you can also do some individual family photos as well. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Nice to have some news. And at this time, we will have the secretary call the roll, please.
Item 4, roll call. Chair McNabb.
Present.
Commissioner Ashendorf.
Present.
Commissioner DeSico.
Present.
Commissioner Frager. Commissioner Rutherford.
Present.
The record will reflect that Commissioner Erickson and Commissioner Fay are absent. And item 5, approval of the minutes of the May 23rd, 2019 meeting of the PAX Commission.
All members of the commission have been provided with the minutes from May's meeting. Does anyone have any comments or additions, corrections, or anything they would like to comment on the minutes? Seeing none, I will move to approve the minutes from the May meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. And I will call for the question. We cast the vote now. We're very thrilled to have our fancy new technology here in the new council chambers. It looks,
The motion carries 5-0.
we did it. Yay, everybody. Great job. Thank you.
Item 6, public comments.
To ensure fair and equal treatment of all who appear before the Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commission and expedite city business, speakers will be limited to 3 minutes during public comments. The 3-minute per speaker time limit may be extended for good cause by the chairperson or by a majority vote of the commission. At this time, please come to the podium, state your name and the city of which you reside for the record. And at this time, I will open public comments. And seeing no members of the public wishing to speak, we will close public comments and move on to commissioner comments. And at this time, we would like to welcome our new commissioners. Why don't we start with Commissioner Frager? If you would like to just give a brief introduction of yourself to the commission and the public, that would be wonderful. And then we'll just kind of continue down the line. Welcome.
There we go. Saw the red light. Hello, I am Kelly Frager, and I am thrilled to be here tonight for the first time. Hello, everyone. I moved up to Costa Mesa in 2012. I did some work with City of Vista prior to that at their, they've got the Moonlight Amphitheater down there, and so I did some of their production behind the scenes stuff in their office, did some volunteer management there for a little while, and then was hired with Pacific Symphony up here in 2012. And so I was literally welcomed to Orange County through the arts, which is a cool thing to say. And I have been there now for about 7 years. And the focus of my work there is in their education and community engagement department. I manage a variety of programs that really just connect people of all cultures and ages through really just multidisciplinary work. We have classical music opportunities, of course, but a lot of my work is actually multidisciplinary, which is very fun and rewarding. And I lived in Tustin for a little while in the middle of all of that, but I am happy to be back home in Costa Mesa and happy to serve in this capacity. I really hope to learn a lot from my fellow commissioners and hope to bring my learning from Pacific Symphony here. And I am just honored to be here tonight. So thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Commissioner Ashendorf, would you please go next?
No. There we go. Thank you. Hi, I'm Charlene Ashendorf, and Commissioner Chair, let's start that again. Chair McNabb and Commissioners, I'm really proud to be here and serve alongside of you. My husband, Dennis Ashendorf, and I have lived in Costa Mesa for over 17 years. He's a high school math teacher in Newport Mesa Unified School District, and I have spent my career in nonprofit management, I'm not new to serving on a commission. I served on the Community Services Commission in the city of Irvine, and as well senior commission for the city, for our city here. My passion is the arts. I currently serve on the Cultural Arts Committee. I have a heart for seniors, especially since I met my husband over 20-some years ago at the senior center when I was working there. And also, I am very involved there as a volunteer. Additionally, I served on the Library Foundation Board, so was really happy to be a part of the process bringing in our new library. Commissioner McNabb, may I continue with some other comments or just introductions? Okay, thank you. I did want to say a few things that it's been really exciting to see all of the activity that's gone on at Lions Park with Kites and Bites was a wonderful opportunity to really launch into a West Side community building. Additionally, the first art walk was held on June 15th. And I attended the summer kickoff at the park, which was also fairly well attended. As far as senior activities, on Monday we will install a new reception for Samuel Hine. And I would like to acknowledge Costa Mesa TV because last month they were awarded 7 awards for their work in documentaries and government productions. So thank you for all your work. And also, Dane, I'm trying my best. Thank you for your training. One last comment. I want to make sure that all of the commissioners have had an opportunity to see this wonderful piece. It was first in Voice OC and now in the Daily Pilot covering the arts. So we're getting a lot of publicity in the art scene. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you and welcome. We're so pleased to have you with us. Commissioner Rutherford.
Well, I'm very excited to have Commissioner Ashendorf and Commissioner Frager join us on the commission. Also really excited to have the team from Costa Mesa's Network for Homeless Solutions here to make a presentation on the bridge shelter. I think we're all very supportive of those efforts and what city staff is doing, so thank you. I want to second what Commissioner Ashendorf said about the new library. I've been in there constantly all the time to study and work and spend time in there, print stuff in there. It's a great space, and so I hope more people start using it. And I'm also excited by the city's events that have been hosted there, future events that are planned. The more events there, the better. So thank you.
And Commissioner DeCiccio.
Thank you. I also want to encourage everyone to enjoy our new library. We built it to be used. So everyone go ahead and get out there, check it out if you haven't. It's a really good resource for our community. Also, now that summer has started, get out and enjoy the parks. That's why they're there. We shouldn't be indoors all the time. So there's a variety of events that the City of Costa Mesa helps put on, concerts in the park, movies in the park, just different ways to utilize parks. And you can always just go to a park without a reason. That's always a good thing to go outside and get some vitamin D. So just want to encourage everyone to enjoy a lot of these improvements we've been making. Lions Park is also an area that we're reclaiming for the community to be able to enjoy. So looking forward to when that becomes an available park as well for everyone. So get out there and enjoy the summer.
Thank you very much. And for my comments, I would like to reiterate that everything at Lions Park has been really exciting to participate in. I went to the butterfly workshop about a week and a half ago, and that was really special and neat to see so many people that were participating and learning about the butterflies in the community. It was really sweet. And also the summer kickoff that was just last Saturday was really a wonderful event. I think it was fun to see families coming together using the park and then walking into the library and using both of those really wonderful amenities that are new to the city. And then another opportunity coming up this Saturday is the pack walk with the dog. They're doing a big pack walk for the dogs at Ferry Park, so that looks really fun. And also upcoming is our 3rd of July big festivities right across the street at the fairgrounds with the Tijuana dogs, and it's going to be a really fun occasion that all the families can come and participate together. So that's it for my commissioner comments, so we can continue on with the agenda.
Item 8, consent calendar.
All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted in one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the commission votes on the motion unless members of the commission, staff, or the public request specific items be removed from the consent calendar. These items will be discussed and voted upon immediately following commission action on the remainder of the consent calendar. Upon invitation from the chairperson, members of the public who wish to discuss consent calendar items should come forward to the microphone and state your name and the city which you reside at this time. And we only have one item on the consent calendar this evening. Anybody have any comments about the consent calendar? Commissioner Rutherford?
I would like to motion to approve item A, the instructional class proposal.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call for the question.
The motion carries 5-0. Item 9, presentation, bridge shelter update.
Chair McNabb, members of the commission, tonight Neighborhood Improvement Manager Stacy Lumley is going to walk you through some history related to the city's homelessness efforts, as well as provide an update since the city's bridge shelter opened in the first week of April. Stacy's been instrumental not only in being an active team member since about 5 years ago, but she was very instrumental in the opening of the bridge shelter itself, and she now leads the team of staff who work inside of the shelter and outside of the shelter, and she's the Mercy House main contact as well.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lumley. Thank you for being here this evening. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Chair McNabb and Commissioners. Good evening. My name is Stacy Lumley, Neighborhood Improvement Manager for the Network for Homeless Solutions under the Parks and Community Services Department. Tonight, I will review some background on our program, an overview of the team, and updates of our Costa Mesa Bridge Shelter. At the conclusion of my presentation, I will be available for questions. In January 2019, the County of Orange conducted a point-in-time count. The totals for the Central Service Planning Area for sheltered and unsheltered individuals experiencing homelessness was 193. Orange County as a region has 6,860 sheltered and unsheltered individuals experiencing homelessness. This data was collected prior to our bridge shelter opening in April 2019. Network for Homeless Solutions was established and approved in 2012 in partnership with city outreach workers, law and code enforcement, all city departments, nonprofit providers, and faith-based organizations. We are all empowered to collaborate with one another to assist our City of Costa Mesa residents who are experiencing homelessness with support to end their homelessness. Our program has a 4-point strategy, which includes city law enforcement, fire department, code enforcement, attorney, public services, and outreach. Service coordination with outside agencies, direct outreach services, and reconnections. In order for an individual interested in receiving support services, they need to meet our residency requirements, providing our outreach team with documentation showing their strong ties to the City of Costa Mesa. Our outreach team meets on a regular. Our team meets with all new individuals who may qualify for our program to ensure they meet our criteria. It takes a lot of coordination and communication to operate our program. Network for Homeless Solutions meets weekly with community volunteers, faith-based groups, nonprofits, and businesses. In 2017, outreach made at least 60 to 80 contacts a week and more than 3,000 contacts in a year. Weekly, we partner and ride along with city police, park rangers, and code enforcement. We are all dedicated to help our residents. Our city Teams monitor parks while in the field or on bike patrol. There are 3 community policing officers dedicated to assist with homeless-related issues, work hard in keeping the sidewalks clear, and remove all unclaimed property from the streets. Supporting the community is a top priority for our programs. The City and Chamber provide business with guidance workshops on dealing with homeless-related issues. Our team has a full-time senior code enforcement officer whose main job is to educate residents and business owners of the trespassing laws. Law enforcement provides guidance to business owners on best practices. Network for Homeless Solution has many key partners. We partner with the county and government programs, nonprofits, and faith-based groups. The City of Costa Mesa's outreach team consists of 3 part-time outreach workers, 1 part-time contracted outreach worker, 1 full-time senior code enforcement officer, collaboration with law enforcement, providing case management services, referrals and linkages to services for homeless clientele, diversion and reconnection services to non-residents of Costa Mesa. The Costa Mesa Bridge Shelter was opened in April of 2019. City has entered into a contract with Mercy House as the professional operator to manage the day-to-day operations. Costa Mesa has 2 full-time in-reach case managers providing wraparound services and creating a housing plan with each client. This plan could include linking clients to social services, medical and mental health services, supportive programs. The case managers focus on developing a housing plan with each client, as their number 1 goal and priority is to prepare them for permanent housing. Costa Mesa Shelter has a total of 50 dedicated shelter beds for Costa Mesa residents experiencing homelessness. Between April 2019 and May of 2019, we have made over 754 linkages. This may include a linkage to mental health, medical, or substance abuse programs. We have many community partnerships, which includes Mercy House, Trellis, SOS, county programs, and other nonprofit organizations. There is a good neighbor policy. We have 24-hour security presence on site, half-mile business and resident outreach assistance. It is a reservation-based program, no walk-ups or use of bikes. All guests must be shuttled in and out, meeting at the designated shuttle locations. There is a fence around the property, and the bridge shelter is in a secured and controlled environment. As of 2014, we have successfully housed 9 individuals from our Costa Mesa Bridge Shelter. I'd like to take a moment to show you a short video of the Costa Mesa Bridge Shelter. The city is accepting financial and in-kind donations to help support the city's established bridge shelter. Financial donations can be made through the website shown on the slide, and in-kind donations are accepted during normal business hours at 2 locations, Costa Mesa City Hall and Costa Mesa Senior Center. Volunteer opportunities are always welcome at the bridge shelter 7 days a week, as you may be able to assist as a client greeter, preparing and serving meals, or light cleaning. Peer support to our clients is so very important. Sometimes all they want to do is talk with someone or even play games. It is required that volunteers attend a volunteer training coordinated by Mercy House. You must be over 13 years of age, and the volunteer shifts do vary daily. On this slide, you will find some helpful resources on how to report non-emergency complaints through My Costa Mesa Request. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for that update. That is really wonderful news to see how well the implementation of the bridge shelter has gone. I think it's made a tremendous difference in our city, and I think the residents, and I know this commissioner really appreciates it. So thank you for all the hard work that you've been doing. Do commissioners have any questions for? Okay, Commissioner Ashendorf.
Thank you. Ms. Lumley, thank you very much for a great presentation. I also want to let you know, because I'm present at the Senior Center regularly, that your presentation has really helped allay any fears that many of the seniors have expressed, because their area has been directly impacted as a result of this program. So your presence there, answering some of their day-to-day questions that they've had, have been very helpful. Want to thank you for that. My other comment is that regarding the donations, is that you mentioned through a city page, do your donations go to the Costa Mesa Foundation or directly to city?
Chair Ashendorf, I can answer that. All financial donations go through the Costa Mesa Foundation,
Okay.
And those are then handed to the city through a joint agreement. But that's where we want people to make those donations through is the foundation.
Right.
It can be found on, if you go to the city's webpage /homelessness.
Yes.
And there's a big button to click on that says donate here.
So that allows that to be a tax-deductible donation.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner DeCiccio.
Thank you for that presentation and all the hard work you've done. I have a couple questions that I'm just unsure about how it works. What is the average stay of someone who would be going to the bridge shelter to this point? I know it's relatively new, so maybe hard to say without data, but are they there for a week? Are they there for a couple months? What's like a ballpark amount of time?
Thank you, Commissioner DeCiccio. So regarding that, the guidelines regionally, or the data shows regionally that the clients in the shelter can be there anywhere from 3 to 6 months. That's like an average regionally with all the shelters here in Orange County. It varies from client to client. Sometimes they may be, when we first opened, there was a client that was there 2 hours, and he's like, I can't do this, and walked out the door.
Right.
Some clients are there a week. Some clients are still there from the beginning of when we opened. In our guidelines, we have specific guidelines and expectations for the clients that they actually have to sign when they initially come in for acceptance to the bridge shelter for their intake process. In those guidelines, it says 180 days, which is 6 months. Within that 6 months, we work extremely hard in trying to find housing placement. However, sometimes there are a few barriers in regards to finding houses. It could be their income. Their income level is definitely one of our challenges here in Orange County, because as we know, the rentals are pretty expensive. So some living on Social Security, for a lot of them, it doesn't meet the needs for where they want to live. So we need to work on increasing their Social Security. 6 months is ideal. That's what our goal is. 6 months or less. Much less than 6 months. And then every 30 days after that, we seriously evaluate that. With the guidelines and expectations for the clients, they are required to meet with their in-reach case managers on a weekly basis. If they fail to follow through with those guidelines, that could result in exit, because that's part of the program requirements. This is a first step for all the clients come through the door. Some of the individuals have been on the streets for over 20 years. So this is brand new for them. It's a brand new community. They're all living under the same roof in one dorm area. So you can imagine, we've been told, somebody's snoring too loud. Can you tell them to stop? I'm like, I'm sorry, we can't correct them to stop. So it's definitely an adjustment for some, and it varies from person to person.
Okay, thank you. And then, as you mentioned, one of the barriers to them finding permanent housing is income. Vocational training or anything in that area, training them or giving them some skills to find a job. What is the Bridge Shelter's role in that?
Yes, so we work with partnering programs within the community. Second Chance is one of them. With that, she comes in and she works with individuals for resume building, job training. They're actually doing a class this afternoon in regards to job preparation and interviews. So we work with a variety of different programs, working wardrobes, community programs that assist with those needs to give them the training that they are needing to get some source of extra money to help them out.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
One thing I'd like to add, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, is that some people who are clients to the shelter have jobs. They just haven't had the means to be able to save up some of their income to afford a down payment or to really have enough time to get the documents that they need with that money that they might need for a down payment. So it's also a short-term stay for some of those people. And the InReach case managers, they're really working creatively to not only house people on individual bases, but partner the right people who might make well for a roommate situation, so that now it is a dual income situation. So they're working really strategically. They work with Mercy House as well through their housing navigator to really find those opportunities so that they can become sustainable.
Thank you. Commissioner Rutherford.
Thank you again for your presentation. I just wanted to ask a couple quick questions. I was just wondering what the wait list is looking like for the shelter right now, and if there's a wait list and how many people are on it. And then the second question is, I saw that the county's healthcare agency, CalOptima, released an estimate of the number of homeless people in the county that was significantly higher than the point-in-time count. They said it was 10,000 people that were homeless in the county. I was wondering if you had any comment on that or any other insight. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rutherford. In regards to the CalOptima count versus the point-time count, I don't have any comments at this time in regards to the two differences in the counts itself. I was a participant with the point-time count, so I can definitely answer on basis of that information. In regards to the second question, can you repeat that for me? Sorry.
I think it was in regards to a wait list. I think that's what
Yeah.
you mentioned.
Wait list.
It's more of an interest list than a wait list, and it does include, and I'll just speak to it and then I'll pass it over to Ms. Lumley, but it also includes some people who maybe tried out the shelter in the beginning, who exited on their own right, and there's a waiting period to enter back, obviously. So there are a handful of people who are on the list for that, but it's more of an interest list, and just because someone's interested also doesn't mean that when it's their turn to go on to a room that they take that up. Obviously, there's a vetting process that we have to go through that involves our Costa Mesa Police Department as well as our outreach team to be able to do that. But the list, it varies in size. Perhaps, Ms. Lumley, you have a number or a range?
Yes, right now our interest list consists of approximately 30 individuals that are interested in seeking shelter.
One point of clarification that I think is important is the Bridge Shelter, first and foremost, is geared towards folks with Costa Mesa ties who are experiencing homelessness. They get priority. When there is a bed available, when there is no longer those Costa Mesa individuals, that's when the priority would go to a non-Costa Mesa resident. So that varies as well from depending on who's in and around the city.
Do you have a further comment, Commissioner
I
Rutherford?
was just wondering how many people are in the shelter right now.
As of today, we have 48.
Cool.
And as far as the donation requests go, the wish list, I think, is probably pretty helpful for people to know what to bring. But are there things that you feel are more critical that maybe we could promote in a better manner? Or is it pretty much they really need everything on the list?
At this point in time, the need for undergarments is surprisingly a higher need for us right now. Clothes they're doing well on for the individuals, and then hygiene projects is always a need.
And they do have the laundry services on site?
Yes, we have laundry services, and the Mercy House operator actually washes the laundry to ensure that it gets washed appropriately, and then they return it back to the client for to store away.
Okay, well, I'm moving in. Okay, thank you. I'm just, thank you very much for your presentation. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much. I know the entire staff in the city really worked hard on this to get this all together, from our department to financing to the city council, and everybody really did an amazing job. And I think we really are leading the county at this time, and I'm proud of all the work that you've done. So thank you so much. And next item.
Item 10, old business, no items. Item 11A, new business, tree removal request, 1275 Bristol Street.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. And first, I'd like to welcome our new commissioners. Have a good evening and welcome. This is a tree removal request at 1275 Bristol Street. The tree removal request is related to a building permit application, PA 19-10, through the city's planning division. The types of trees to be removed are 5 American sweet gum trees. The height of each tree is approximately 15 to 45 feet. The right-of-way from the curb to back of sidewalk or to back of city property is 8 feet. The trees were last maintained in 2013. This is a view facing west on Bristol Street in front of the property, which was formerly the Ganal Lumber building. This is a view facing south from across the street from the apartments, looking at the 3 of the trees. And then there you can see the condition of the trees. This is the two of the other trees of the 5 from south on the other side of the street. This is a view facing east on Bristol, looking at the last tree and the edge of the property. The applicant has agreed to re-landscape the existing property and build a new facility, which will include 15 trees along Bristol. The applicant will also pay the standard mitigation cost for the tree removals, which is a 3-to-1 ratio, which equates to 5 24-inch box trees, 10 15-gallon container-sized trees, and these trees will be selected by the city's arborist, and the locations of the planting will be selected by the city arborist at a later time. This is a plan of the property, and on the lower portion of the property is the section that runs right along Bristol, where you can see they have several different types of trees that are intended to match the new Ganal Lumber facilities landscape. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Do any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Lindeman or Mr. Ortiz? Commissioner Rutherford.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the images, if you wouldn't mind showing those, Bruce.
Yes.
Just because I was concerned about, there was a report submitted as like a letter of support by Diamond Star Associates, and I was just concerned with the way that it was framing the trees and what the plans were versus like the actual consideration of the health of the trees and of environmental consciousness versus just saying that it was going to interfere with the cars that were going to be on the property. And it seemed like the trees that they were proposing to plant were exactly in the same spot where these trees are existing.
Well, we do have a representative from the landscape production, the company and design. If he could step forward, maybe if you would. and he can maybe answer some of your questions related to that, as well as the city arborist.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Well, good evening, Chairman McNabb. My name is Don Lamb, and I do represent Fletcher Jones Motor Cars. And I'd first like to start off and congratulate all of you as commissioners. What a great job you have and experience in your life. You will remember for years to come working in this chamber. I spent 23 years of my life sitting in this chamber at this dais, and I had many, many good memories, and in my older age, I come back now on fun and exciting projects such as this one. And to specifically answer your question, I just wanted to preface it by saying that this is an opportunity that the city has had to attract Fletcher Jones Motor Cars to the city of Costa Mesa from Newport Beach. When I worked here in the economic development, we would have loved to have had the car dealership come over. Well, Fletcher Jones decided they acquired the Audi dealership on Pacific Coast Highway. They found the site in Costa Mesa. They only had 90 days to move here. So for those of you who've noticed, there is the dealership down the street. It is a temporary. So it was opened in 90 days flat. All the personnel came over, all the cars. So the old Ganal lumber site was acquired to put in the permanent dealership. It's taken about 9 months to go through all of the design criteria with corporate Audi Corporation. These are franchises, so Audi in Germany dictates building, architecture, landscape, and the like. And pardon me in trying to draft a letter that portrayed what they were looking for versus the trees. I can assure you that as a person I'm a licensed city planner by profession for 38 years. My job was always landscape preservation, and I totally understand it, and I understand your views. But there are times in this world that landscaping also has to succeed to the benefits as a whole to the community. This project represents several $1 million a year in sales tax to the community. It takes down an old building that Ganal Lumber had for many, many years. And the trees in question, yes, in the slides, they look nice. And Commissioner, I applaud you for picking them. They are nice trees. They are liquid ambers. Liquid ambers like this are well grown. But you can also notice that there's a really strange meandering sidewalk in front of this property. The meandering sidewalk continues down in front of the commercial retail towards Red Hill. But when the new Ganal building was built, they scraped all the landscaping off, moved the sidewalk to the back of curb, and all the new trees, instead of being called street trees in the public right-of-way, they're all placed on the private property. So this view you can see further down by Ganal, all the new trees are privately owned, they're maintained by the private property owner, and the sidewalk is in back of curb. So the same design is desired by the city to move the sidewalk in back of curb where the Ganal building is. And in that particular case, there are trees there. You have to take the trees out to move the sidewalk to start with. But secondly, if Bruce can go to the slide with those trees, they are substantial in size. They're attractive trees, but they are close to the back of curb. Those trees eventually will have to come out. You can see by the size, the caliper of the tree trunks. And in some cases, you can see where it has been trimmed slightly up and over the traffic lane. But the city has been responsible for taking care of these trees. And as noted in the staff report, you don't have the resources to go out there and care and trim and water. These trees were last trimmed and maintained by the city 6 years ago. The new trees, there will be at least 15 or more placed on site just behind. Those will be cared for, professionally maintained, watered, and landscaped ornamentally, where these trees, unfortunately, over the years, they really haven't been maintained that well. I mean, they are trees, they're nice, I like them, but Ganal wasn't exactly into landscape treatment. The city isn't, and most cities in California are trying to get away from city-owned parkway trees and move behind the sidewalks. So that, and on top of it, they are building a beautiful new car dealership. They would certainly like to have a new, fresh landscape plan, new trees, new ground cover, and a wider landscape depth planter that would be afforded by moving the sidewalk to the back of curb and eliminating these little strips where those trees are. So you put it all together, and the architects had proposed this plan to the city. Quite frankly, we didn't even know it had to go to the Parks Commission. all private property trees you can remove by right. That's not an issue. And when the planning department popped up and said, oh my gosh, this has got to go to the Parks Commission first, and you must do it before the Planning Commission meeting, this dealership has been running so far behind. They're on the August 15th Planning Commission agenda. They hope to pull building permits the last week of August. They've already designed the building. It's in building plan check, and they're frantically trying to meet the factory mandated opening date of September 2020. So I apologize if kind of rushed, and quite frankly, I wrote the letter. I'm not exactly the best at landscape description, but I did the best in trying to express that Audi would sincerely appreciate your help and support on this. They gladly would replace it with 15 new trees. That's a generous thing to be placed in parks, probably more usable areas. And looking forward to your support on this. And like you, it's never nice to cut down a tree in this world. The cost to relocate and to do something else with these, they are liquid ambers. They're not necessarily historical significance. They're not redwoods. They're not spruce. They are what they are. So sorry for the long-winded discussion here, but I have a very nervous dealership owner down the street going, what's going to happen tonight, Don, if they don't approve it? So I told them not to come, and they couldn't speak. So I'm it. Thank you very much.
Can I just ask really quickly? So
Absolutely.
with the meandering sidewalk, that doesn't seem like a big deal to have a meandering sidewalk. Some people would think meandering sidewalk is aesthetically pleasing. Some people might not. Is that going to because you're having to pay to replace those trees, is that going to be a financial burden just to leave the meandering sidewalk as it is?
To look at it this way, when Ganal was moved down the street, the city chooses a streetscape design, if you want to call it. So the new design there was decided by Public Services Department, and rightfully so, to put the sidewalk behind the curb, and then all landscape behind becomes private. You have a little bit more depth because you generally have a 5-foot, 6-foot sidewalk. You pick up a couple of feet of public right-of-way that's landscaped, and then you have your private planter. In this particular case, if you can see in the slide, there's a block wall that is supporting the parking area. All of that has to come out. The building's coming down. Everything's being completely scraped and graded. They've got to remove this sidewalk to replace it, and the trees become a burden. The roots are a problem. Overall, to try to do anything to save them, keep them, relocate them, that's why the decision was, let's just get on with this. All the sidewalk has to come out. It's old. It needs replacement.
Is there a reason they have to remove the sidewalk? Like, why does the sidewalk have to come out?
That's a good question. You could keep it. You could. And I think that's maybe a consideration the city made down the street at Ganal. But you also want, as an urban planner, to see a streetscape scene that has the appearance of master planning and proper look. And you want consistency in your street trees. And I think, and again, trying to mirror what Ganal did and bring similar varieties, the same setback and all, to give Bristol Street a new, fresh look. Could they leave it? I guess they could. Then somehow they've still got to clean up the planters, trim these trees, and then match it with trees behind. It's possible.
I mean, if you leave the sidewalk like that, you could landscape around the curvy sidewalk. I mean, I see that in a lot of other places, and it looks very, very well done.
Right. There are many choices, and there are many options, and I guess it's sort of a value judgment in this case that, the proposal is to start over fresh and new and clean, give everything a fresh new look with a beautiful 3-story dealership that has glass storefronts, a modern landscape design. If you want these kept, we'd have to try to incorporate them in. We hope and request that you don't mandate that, truthfully, and that may be a difficult decision for you, but in the greater good for all of this, we'd certainly hope you support us. So that's the best I can say.
And Commissioner DeCiccio?
Yes. Thank you for taking the time to come up here and speak to us and answer any of our difficult questions.
Please feel free.
I'm glad the city has been helpful in making this happen as you're under some very tight timelines. So I'm glad the city has met their end of trying to help you with this project.
Absolutely.
Looking at the landscaping, I counted over 100 trees within the property line that are going to be added. So as far as I'm concerned, losing 5 and gaining 100 is a good ratio in my opinion. So I think that's a great thing. My one concern would be taking these from public to private is now up to the property owners to maintain and keep these trees. Would it be safe to assume that the work for landscaping and adequately maintaining the sidewalk walkability and bikeability will be completed by Audi Fletcher Jones on a fairly consistent basis?
The maintenance, you should say?
Yeah,
Oh,
so like the leaves dropping and trimming of the
absolutely.
trees.
Absolutely. In fact, that, as I try to allude somewhat to here, I mean, I grew up as a kid with liquid ambers and sycamores, and geez, we had leaves all over every spring, and we used to have all these, the seed balls. You could rip them apart and stuff them down your friends' backs and had itching powder, we called it. They are a messy tree. So clearly, the dealership is looking to have a very clean landscape area, perfectly maintained. These Audi cars on display, you know, start at $48,000, go up to $90,000. The investment in this dealership is over $35 million. So you're going to have a very well-maintained, high-class operation. Fletcher Jones Motor Cars, it's just such an extraordinary benefit to have them. I don't work for them. I'm just their consultant. I would have given anything the 23 years of the city to attract Fletcher Jones to Costa Mesa. So when they gave me the call, I said, you bet, man, I'm getting you into Costa Mesa one way or another. I don't care. And Newport Beach did not know about this until after they had moved, and they were ticked off. So this is a huge coup for the city. This has not gone public yet. You are looking at plans that have not been viewed by the Planning Commission or anyone else. So hopefully there's not media here tonight. Your mayor will be doing probably a public announcement sometime in the middle or late July. The environmental documents just went public this week, if you'd like to read those. But the overreaching benefit, Fletcher Jones has the most successful Mercedes dealership in the United States down the street, Newport Beach. Their annual sales equal almost half of South Coast Plaza. So they are the #1 Mercedes dealership in the United States and probably the world. They then acquired Audis. They have 14 dealerships overall. They acquired an underperforming Audi in Beverly Hills, turned it around, and that is now the #1 Audi dealership in the United States. So that one ownership group is very meticulous. This dealership, if you went out there, this site is completely jammed with inventory of cars already. It is packed. I looked at it and said, why do you need so many? They are such a high volume sales, and they stage the cars in Irvine. They have a full preparation location over there. Mercedes has a whole nother lot down the street off of Quail with over 1,000 cars. So to have the sales tax reported here is just extraordinarily good, and they haven't asked for anything other than 5 trees being removed.
Yeah, and like
So
I said, I definitely
that's
think replacing that with the amount of trees they're putting on there, I think is definitely worth it. I know Audi is a very high-end car, and I know the property, or I'm pretty sure the property will be maintained properly.
I think so.
To reflect the level of clientele they're going to attract. One other question I had, if we're removing these trees from public property, now moving them onto private property, what is the intention of Audi Fletcher Jones as far as the tenure of this location? The concern being, if it is now on private property, then it's up to whoever is there. When Audi Fletcher Jones is there, I have no doubt it will be maintained properly. If there is someone else who maybe would care less about the property site, that would be my concern, is them removing these trees along Bristol that are now on private property. If you could speak to that.
Certainly. Well, putting my city planner hat on, this project is being processed through the city under a conditional use permit. Conditional use permits, when they are blessed by a city planning commission, the site plan, the landscape plan is locked in as a requirement, because that's the proposal, that's the guarantee to the city. So what you see in front of you will remain the approved plan. I don't want to say in perpetuity, but for the expected life. Regardless of who owns, operates, it is still the same requirement. So the future owners all have the obligation to keep a landscape design like this. Do they have to come back and ask for a change in variety of trees? Costa Mesa has yet to go to that level of specificity, but it does show that that number of trees, that significant style of landscape must be there and it must be properly maintained. So you ask, so what if Joe's well, I won't say Joe, that's Jim's father, but Joe's Used Cars opens up here and they don't maintain it. Under the powers that the city has as its legislative body, the city council, they can call back any conditional use permit ever issued, and you have that authority to recommend to them. So if you see a property in the city that's not being properly maintained, they can call it back for a review. The use permit goes back to the Planning Commission, notice public hearing, and the city has the right to say that its condition now is not being operated to the level of the benefit of the health, safety, and welfare of the community. A city council, upon recommendation of a commission, can revoke a standing use permit and shut down a business. It's difficult, but it can be done, and those powers exist. And that is your ultimate stick or control in code enforcement. Currently, you do not have that authority. Canal went in the days when it was just a retail store. They landscaped it. There was no control. The car dealership under a use permit, the city now has that full right of maintaining and requiring that from now on. So code enforcement officers pull us up and go out there and will say, you owe us 10 trees, 5 trees, whatever. And that's somewhat the future guarantee that you would have.
Thank you. That answers that question, Don.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Rutherford?
So would it be a financial burden to keep the sidewalk as it exists to the dealership?
Mm-hmm. Not to disappoint you in my answers, it's not a financial burden. It's just simply a wish of theirs to have a consistent street design compatible with canals, to upgrade the look, to have new, fresh landscaping. Money's not the object. Money's not the object in caring for the old trees, but wanting the new, fresh look. I mean, that is truthfully what it is. And in the world of trees, I'm not an arborist, but there are such things as ornamental trees. There are historic trees. I was the land planner of Tustin Ranch in my days when I was about your age. And we discovered this grove of cedar trees out in the middle of the orchards. So it was preserved in the specific plan, and if you go over there to this day, there's a park called Cedar Grove Park, and it's this triple row of trees that were planted at the turn of the century. Those trees have significance to history. They're beautiful. They're very unique. They were planted as an experiment to grow wood for railroad ties in the railroad in those days, but it failed, and they left the trees. These trees, what significance other than, yes, they're a green tree, they're pretty, they're nice. Beyond that, they're not of any historical value. So it's a value judgment that you as commissioners will always probably struggle with. It's never good to say, yes, it's okay to cut down a tree. I totally understand that. So the replacement of box trees and 15-gallon trees and parks and wherever else, in addition to everything you saw in the site plan, hopefully that's the offset that's sufficient, and we totally agree. We'll do it, deliver the trees, and that gives everybody a chance to improve another site where the public gets to actually use and enjoy the trees. Where here, you drive by it, that's about it.
Okay.
Does that help?
I appreciate your comments.
Okay.
I just want to finish all my comments by saying,
Sure.
I might look pretty shaggy if I didn't get a haircut since 2013. Probably shouldn't be out in public if that happened. But I think, you yourself said these trees are nice. I don't think they're ready to be killed yet. I don't think I'm in the business of killing trees up here.
That's perfectly your choice.
And I think they
Sure.
would look great with a trim, like anybody would. So I recommend a haircut for these trees. I'm not comfortable voting to kill them.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just one point of clarification in regards to the layout of the sidewalk. That's more going to be based upon the site design that the Planning Commission will consider. Certainly a consideration. These minutes will go into the Planning Commission's packet, but the design of the sidewalk and the layout in which that's part of the property will be decided by the Planning Commission.
Thank you for that clarification. And I would like to ask the city arborist to give us a report on your view of the trees, the 5 trees. Please.
So the trees are in fair condition. They do have a disease called Xylella, bacterial leaf scorch on them, and they also have girdling roots. So the trees are not in great condition, they're not in good condition, they're in fair condition. Ultimately, within a year or two, those trees are going to fail.
Thank you. Mr. Commissioner DeSico, did you have another question or comment?
That was my question. About the longevity of the trees. If it was decided that these trees should stay, what's the longevity and life expectancy of these? So I think you answered that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair McNabb?
Yes.
Chairman, may I also just once again state about the mitigation and the 15 trees the city will be receiving, which include the 24-inch box trees to be planted elsewhere, which could be used to offset cost or assist in another park where the larger type of trees would be more acceptable and have room to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further, Commissioner Rutherford?
I just wanted to ask, I'm in no business of questioning you as the city arborist, Jim. I'm obviously not an expert in that, but I'm just wondering why that assessment about the disease in the trees wasn't included in the original, because we each got a 1-page summary for each tree that said they were in good condition. Was there a reason that was missed in that summary?
In the future, we'll incorporate that into the agenda report.
All right, if there are no further questions, we can open the floor to discussion about making a motion or discussing other commission, or Mr.
Chair
Martin.
McNabb, I just wanted to make sure that you opened and closed public comment for
thank
this
you.
item in case anyone else from the public would like to speak.
I appreciate that. At this time, we will open the item to public comments. If anyone wishes to speak about this tree removal request, please come to the podium now. Okay, well, we shall close public comments. Thank you, though, for keeping me on track. And now I will open up to commissioner comments for discussion. Would anyone care to make a motion?
Thank you, Chair McNabb. I don't know if I'll get a second for this, but I would just like to motion to approve the item with the recommendation that they preserve the existing trees.
Is there a second to the motion? Or,
So for clarification, that would be to deny the staff recommendation.
So I can't make a suggestion just to do that. Is the staff recommendation just one complete package?
The recommendation is regarding the 5 trees, not the sidewalk.
Okay. Does the recommendation have, it has nothing else to do with their plan for the property? That's for the planning commission, right?
All the private trees are on private property, which you do not have purview over. That's correct.
okay, so seeing no second, motion fails. I, at this time, move to take the staff recommendation and proceed with the removal and Category 2 removal contingent on the Planning Commission application PA 1910. Is that correct? I am making the motion. Oh, do I need to go back to my home panel? Let me go back.
Gotcha. I'll second.
Okay. So I make a motion, so I think I just did that. Okay.
And I'll second.
Okay. We're enjoying our new technology here. Any further discussion before I call for the question? Okay. Call for the question.
The motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Rutherford voting no.
Okay. Next item of new business.
New business item 11B, Arts and Culture Master Plan.
Chair McNabb and members of the commission, tonight, Miss Ashley Thomas, Recreation Supervisor with the Parks and Community Services Department, will be providing a brief intro before our consultant, Mr. Richard Stein, goes into his formal presentation on the Arts and Culture Master Plan.
Welcome, Ms. Thomas. It's very nice to see you.
Thank you, Chair McNabb and members of the commission. Let's get this going here. Thank you for your time this evening as you consider the city's first ever Arts and Culture Master Plan document. The primary purpose of the Arts and Culture Master Plan is to provide a community-based uses and needs assessment of arts and culture related facilities, programs, and policies, and to develop realistic recommendations that can be worked towards over time. The master plan serves as an appraisal of the value of the city's cultural resources and a resource to guide the way over the coming decades to support and advance arts and culture in Costa Mesa, the city of the arts. The master plan document will serve as a guide for the orderly development and management of arts and culture related initiatives, programs, and projects for the city. It could be used both as a tool for staff and as a vision of possibilities for the community now and into the future. Included in the plan is a compilation of research methodologies, important timelines, economic values associated with arts, historical information on Costa Mesa's involvement and support of the arts, as well as a series of recommendations that includes goals, objectives, and action steps, which are coupled with tentative timelines and budget estimates. Again, these recommendations can serve as a framework for staff and the community. The process to complete the master plan began mid-2017 when the then City Council unanimously approved the funding allocations for this project through an annual BIA marketing campaign fund. In late 2017, a contract was awarded to Arts Orange County, or Arts OC, the county's nonprofit arts agency. Arts OC was selected in part due to their vast experience in the arts master plans and had previously completed similar projects for the city of Newport Beach and Mission Viejo, as well as other arts and culture projects for the city of Santa Ana. During the master plan process, staff from the Parks and Community Services Department and a subcommittee from the Culture Arts Committee worked in tandem both with Arts OC, sub-consultants, and with the community to move the project forward. This included many public meetings, many subcommittee working group meetings, and several drafts of review. In March 2019, the subcommittee working group approved the current draft master plan document to be presented to the full Culture Arts Committee. In April of 2019, the Culture Arts Committee received a presentation on and reviewed the draft Arts and Culture Master Plan. The committee provided feedback to staff and the consultant and unanimously recommended that the Parks, Arts, and Community Service Commission recommend approval and adoption of the Arts and Culture Master Plan to City Council. With this, the draft Arts and Culture Master Plan is before you this morning, or this evening. With this evening, we have Richard Stein, President and CEO of Arts OC, who has served as the project manager during this update process. Mr. Stein will be providing a thorough presentation pertaining to the master plan process, as well as the established set recommendations. He will be available to assist with answering any questions that commission may have. With this all being said, I would like to invite Mr. Stein, he's coming over here, to update the commission via his presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Stein. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that this is a long time coming. We're thrilled that you're here with us this evening.
Thank you very much, Chair McNabb and members of the commission. And it's a pleasure for us at Arts OC to have assisted the city in this process. So as Ms. Thomas has shared with you, we are the nonprofit Arts Council serving all of Orange County. We're 24 years old. We've done a considerable amount of cultural planning on behalf of cities and other organizations, and we provide a whole range of services and programs to the community. So this is really a project that was near and dear to our hearts to really help a community within our midst to envision what arts and culture might look like 5 years hence, 10 years hence, and to articulate that vision. The city of Costa Mesa made a great statement 35 years ago in 1984 when the council declared itself to be the city of the arts and made that its official motto. 35 years later, the city has now done its first plan. Now, let's look at it this way. At the time that that declaration was made, this was truly aspirational. There was great excitement in the community about the building of South Coast Repertory and the imminent building of what is now called the Segerstrom Center campus. And all of that was done through private funding and arose in the midst of the city of Costa Mesa and has flourished, has done amazing things. And now it's time to look back and say, over those 35 years, we've benefited from these wonderful assets in our community. All of our community has benefited. It has enriched the community in many ways, and we'll touch upon some of those in the presentation. But also, it hasn't done everything, and there still is more to achieve, and there are still more things we'd like to see happen in this community, and not all of it is the responsibility of the private organizations within our midst, but some of it should be a gathering together by the community and public will to invest in some of these activities. So we had a process that involved a tremendous amount of community input gathering, and I'll touch upon some of those points as we go along. Let me make sure I've got all right. So the executive summary is that this took place over the course of a year, and we believe that it reflects the dreams and wishes of the community residents and the people who live here, the people who work here, the people who visit here. Oop. There we go. Okay. A vision statement has been crafted from the input that we gathered that the city of Costa Mesa rededicates itself to this distinction of being a city of the arts, a place where creativity and creative people can flourish. Imagination, inspiration, and innovation are held in the highest regard. The arts are agreed to be essential to everyone's education, no matter what the age. Arts and culture enrich lives and uplift the human spirit, and arts and culture promote civic pride. The goals emanating from this vision begin with a mission statement that, building upon this, the city of Costa Mesa will set forth 4 core priorities, beginning with to increase opportunities for all to experience arts and culture throughout our community, to expand public art throughout the city, to professionalize and elevate the status of arts and culture in city government, and to support Costa Mesa's thriving creative economy, and we'll touch upon that shortly. Our methodology involved monthly meetings with the Cultural Arts Committee Arts Plans Subcommittee. We conducted 78 independent key stakeholder interviews, well beyond the 20 that were promised in our scope of work. We conducted and facilitated 7 community conversations, conducted site visits to organizations and venues throughout the community, and our online survey received well over 1,000 responses in English and in Spanish. So here are just a brief overview of the sectors that were polled in the course of our key stakeholder interviews. Of course, the professional arts and entertainment complex at Segerstrom Center and those organizations, community arts and arts education organizations, the destination retail operators like South Coast Plaza and major businesses in the community, the education establishment in Newport Mesa Unified, as well as higher education, the creative industries that thrive here like Vans and Ruka, and Costa Mesa residents, small businesses, the Latino community, social services and philanthropy, media, and city government departments. In your packet, in your agenda packet and in the document is greater detail on the results of everything that I'm providing an overview for this evening. I'm not going into all of that detail, but a few highlights here include the fact that the respondents to the survey have a very high rating for the quality of life here in Costa Mesa. 2/3 of them said that arts and culture are important to their lives. Many said they would go out more often and participate in the arts if they could take advantage of discounts. Of the many different things, the many different ways that the arts serve the community and benefit the community, the top answer for respondents to the survey was the fact that it provides safe and healthy activities for our youth. And they are frequent arts goers. And that reflects all demographics in the surveys that we conducted. Americans for the Arts has conducted extensive research on what the benefits are for the arts, and you can see just a few here, but everything from health and well-being to therapeutic benefits for veterans, driving the creative industries and strengthening the economy, driving tourism, which is an important part of the economy here as well, making neighborhoods safer. So the first goal to come out of the plan was to increase opportunities for all to experience arts and culture throughout the community. And one stakeholder said, it all comes down to the kids. And so that's where we began with our goals and objectives. And the city is already contributing a bit to the Smart Camp during the summer, and which has an arts component to it. And it was recommended that the city increase that financial contribution over time to increase the reach of that and increase the number of participants. But also the role of the city can be as a catalyst to encourage other community organizations and the school district to deliver more arts programs for youth. And by leading those conversations, that is something that we feel the city has an important role to play in. We're providing you in each of these with 5 years outlook of rough estimates or suggested budget amounts. And so the idea here, you can look over the course of the next 5 budget years in what kind of contribution might be called upon for the Smart Camp. The second objective is to increase free arts experiences year-round for all. And this was considered important to take place citywide because there is that magnet of the Segerstrom Center that draws a lot of people there, but it doesn't reach everybody, and people need to have arts brought to them in their neighborhoods. So in order to do that, there were a number of ideas that were proposed, and I'm actually delighted to report that some are already in motion. Such as was reported by Commissioner Ashendorf, that the new art crawl experience, an art walk type experience, has already begun. Other cities do it. It's always very popular. It's a free activity, and it's an opportunity for the city to help encourage that along. to create a Costa Mesa resident free ticket program for Segerstrom Center events and work in collaboration with the producing and presenting organizations there to achieve that. To really animate the parks by acquiring a professional showmobile that can go from park to park and be a stage for concerts, for theater, for dance. The new Lions Park, of course, is already being animated with new activities, and here is an opportunity to really fully engage the community with a full-blown schedule of performances there. And all of this would involve, in these recommendations, the opportunity to call local and regional artists who don't perform on the Segerstrom Center stages, who are residents of Costa Mesa, and there's some great talent here that can be showcased. Okay. So here's a little bit about, the budget and the forecasting. The existing programs like Art Venture would be continued. The gallery exhibitions in City Hall and at the Senior Center would be continued. The Action Arts program would be continued. They would be supplemented by free park performances by local artists and the art crawl. And as you can see, we have kind of a growth curve on the park performances to start it off very modestly and then build to the point where it's a very, very active program year-round. And similarly, the free ticket program with Segerstrom Center. The showmobile is a one-time expenditure, and we've talked with a number of places that have them, and even in wintry climates, they find that they have at least a 10-year useful life on those. So it would be a fairly modest investment over time. The second goal is really to expand public art throughout the city. It's seen by stakeholders as an opportunity for beautification. You see here in the image one of the utility boxes, which is part of the city's existing temporary public art program. And in this graph, you can see that public art is very popular at cities in Orange County, with Brea having approximately 200 works of art and Laguna Beach just under 100. But Costa Mesa has 33 works of permanent public art and 26 utility boxes. So it ranks, what did I say here? It's fifth in terms of permanent art, but first in terms of utility box art. And so there have been some important strides made here, but there has not been much in the way of significant permanent public art installed here in many, many years. Most of it has been installed by the Segerstrom family close to their campus. So continuing the city-operated temporary utility box program, developing a more ambitious temporary and permanent art program, and creating a new program of temporary large-scale public art around the city. Then in terms of permanent art, which often is costly to institute, most cities utilize a developer fee mechanism. And so that is something that would require further development and planning for if the city wanted to pursue that. And so here's a little idea. So the utility box art over the next 5 years, budgeted at the current level, would continue to grow. And then large-scale temporary installations of art that would be installed in every one of the districts and rotate every couple of years is something that has been very popular, for instance, in what was just dedicated last Saturday, the Newport Beach Sculpture Exhibition in Civic Center Park. 10 new sculptures were added to 10 existing sculptures on 2-year loans in that park, and each year they add and rotate out 10. So something like that is, but instead of having it all concentrated in one location, our recommendation has been to, share it throughout the city in different locations and make it possible for everyone to enjoy it in the community, and also for them to feel a sense of ownership of it. You know, public art has the capacity to really engage people. If you've ever been to Dublin, Ireland, for example, the people have funny nicknames for all of the art there. And I won't go into all of that. You can ask me later. Some of them are off color, but they're terms of endearment that people in that community have for these works of public art. And then developing a permanent public art plan. The third goal is to professionalize and elevate the status of arts and culture in city government. And this is really in order to fully and boldly assert Costa Mesa is the city of the arts. Let's be proud about it. Let's exhibit it throughout city government. One stakeholder said the arts really should have a seat in all city matters. So the first thing, an obvious one, is the branding, to develop an inspiring, imaginative, and maybe Costa Mesa-ish new logo that declares what the city is about and declares proudly the City of the Arts motto, and to use that in all communications, to agendize an artistic moment at every city council meeting, whether it's a child performing a musical instrument or an adult reciting some poetry, to appoint an artist laureate. Many cities have poet laureates. And for a year, they have an assignment to go around the community and engage the community with their artistry, to teach members of the community in their art form. And in fact, this photo here is the newly appointed U.S. Poet Laureate, Joy Harjo, Native American woman from Oklahoma. And she was just appointed this week to be the U.S. Poet Laureate. So it's done at the state level, it's done at the federal level, and many cities do it as well. Then, again, in professionalizing arts and culture here, it's really going to be necessary with added responsibilities to hire a professional arts specialist. And so the task would be to develop a position description, open a search, and hire someone after budgeting for it, of course. And so we have arbitrarily, but with advice from staff, come up with what we think would be a budgetary figure that would include salary and full benefits for a full-time position. And by the way, several other cities in Orange County have these. And so the City of the Arts should consider having one. So the establishment of a city arts commission, like 12 other cities in Orange County, is one that we wondered whether it's been now preempted by adding arts to the Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commission, or whether this is an interim step. So we've left in this recommendation, as a stakeholder says, it demonstrates a higher commitment to the arts. If you are a city of the arts, then you have an arts commission. So to establish an arts commission of 7 members appointed by city council, yet there's also a very wonderful group of people who are in this cultural arts committee and roll up their sleeves and volunteer at so many of the activities and events that they should be retained and provided with a new mission. So, of course, an arts commission, there's some stipends for commissioners involved. So the final goal, the fourth goal, supporting, to the extent the city can, Costa Mesa's thriving creative economy, with the city as a canvas, as a stage. It begins with reimagining the city arts grants program, which are tiny, tiny grants right now in the hundreds of dollars. We're suggesting that they be increased, not to 6 or 7 figures, but to a little more meaningful level. They're intended to be, grants that can help programs get started. They're catalysts, but a little more money should be invested in that. And as you can see, we're talking still a very small amount of money. And then the second objective is to address the need for creative spaces. And this is something that not only is it an issue with the visual arts, but even with Segerstrom Center being there, it is also an issue for the performing arts. So right now, there is no permanent place to exhibit art. You know, a hallway in City Hall or a foyer upstairs in City Hall or some wall space in the senior center, those are all well and good. I'm not putting those down. But there's a feeling by the community that there really needs to be a permanent, dedicated, purpose-designed space for visual arts exhibitions. And so an effort to identify such a space and make it happen. Also, private property owners should be encouraged to be able to take advantage of spaces that they have and make them usable as creative spaces and live work. And, you know, there's a lot of concern after the ghost ship fire up in Oakland several years ago, where so many people were killed, that people, artists will find a way to do this, whether it's legal or not, whether there's a mechanism for approvals or not, and it really needs to be facilitated and regulated in a way that is not dangerous to the artists and their visitors. And Costa Mesa does have some potential properties for that. Then in the performing arts, we talked about already the Lions Park campus facilities beyond just the park itself, but also the library and the new community center. We've recommended testing out what works well, what doesn't work well in those spaces. There, you know, some of this is throw it onto the wall and see if it's going to stick. And whether it attracts an audience, whether the acoustics are suitable for a band to play in there, that sort of thing. Then you've got a community theater in the city and a community theater just outside the city limits, and they have space needs and space issues that and challenges that may eventually lead to their dissolving. And so it's important to work with them and trying to find out ways to remedy those needs. I mean, the Costa Mesa Playhouse is over 50 years old. And, you know, you can say, well, it's a community theater, you know, they should fend for themselves. They're not South Coast Repertory. Well, but they have a long and important history in this community. And new generations of young people and budding artists should have the opportunity to continue to hone their skills there. As far as other venues, and there were, you know, it was all over the map in terms of what the community said they wanted, you know, from small venues to large venues. More research needs to be done in terms of the usage need and the audience market for those sorts of things, and that was not part of our scope of work. So really it's a matter of staff time and focus to be expended on that. The third objective is to help keep Costa Mesa's creatives in the city. This Costa Mesa cool that everybody talks about, the vibe of Costa Mesa that really distinguishes it from every other community in Orange County and many in the region, is one that feeds the creative industries that are in town and that are an important part of the economy. And it's also what makes it so great to live here. Housing affordability is one of the biggest challenges. And so as other cities are doing through affordable housing mechanisms, the possibility to create a supply of affordable artist housing is something that was recommended to be explored as part of a bigger picture of the whole housing situation in the community. But the Santa Ana Arts Collective, pictured here, will be opening later this year. It's a private developer who has used various federal and state and city loan mechanisms and tax credit mechanisms in order to create a building that will have 58 units, as well as an art gallery, as well as deep engagement with the community. So again, this is something that needs to be studied more and as part of a bigger picture issue within the community. The fourth objective is to promote greater creative sector collaboration. So, you know, we have all of these groups at Segerstrom Center. They do speak with one another, fortunately, but a greater dialogue could be promoted between them and other artists in the community and smaller arts organizations. And you know, a toe was dipped in the water a few years ago with a meeting that was held that the Parks and Community Services Department was involved in arranging. So a local arts alliance, not necessarily a formal 501c3, but an ad hoc group that gets together, but that gets nagged by city staff to get together every couple of months and facilitated by city staff, would be a way for a role for the city to play in helping nurture that along. And then the other thing is the creative industries, who don't often talk to one another. It's difficult. They are, in some senses, competitors for this pool of artists, but there's so much to be gained by bringing them together on a periodic basis to share their concerns and to encourage them to do more for the community of artists who live here. Why? Why would you invest money into this? Beyond all of those community benefits we talked about, there's some real dollar payback to the city that is important to take note of. So Costa Mesa's creative sector, 6% of all the firms here are in the creative sector and 4% of all the jobs. That is 50% more than the average city around the country. And when you look at Orange County, almost 6% of all creative sector jobs in Orange County are here in Costa Mesa, even though Costa Mesa is only a little over 3% of the population. So this really is a creative nexus in our community. You know, there's a ton of wages being paid. The nonprofits alone contribute $110 million in revenue, and total economic impact of Costa Mesa nonprofit arts is $500 million. All of these figures, by the way, are from authoritative sources, including the LA Economic Development Corporation and the Chapman School of Management, and also Dun & Bradstreet. So we've collected them from those three sources. But that upper right-hand number, that $1.7 million in tax revenue is directly collected by the city of Costa Mesa from this sector. So when we talk about the contribution to the city's own coffers and the idea that, oh no, you know, we're going to be asked to invest some city money in some of this, where are we going to get it? You've got $1.7 million at this point that's coming in each year directly from this sector. So how much is the city spending now? 91 cents per capita. This chart shows how it compares to other cities in Orange County, as well as the 60 largest cities around the country. And of course, we have a couple of outliers. Laguna Beach has a special funding mechanism for the arts. It's a hotel tax add-on, a business improvement district. They also have added some capital funds for their major institutions, and that's why their number has bumped up so high. But City of Brea, they invest a lot in their public art, as I indicated earlier. So there's room to grow without necessarily having to say we want to spend $65 per capita. And so our suggestions here, if you look at our aggregate budget in the plan document, are that the current $100,000 grow to about $450,000, with just that initial spike in the 2021 because of the capital expense of acquiring the showmobile. So it would bring Costa Mesa from 91 cents per capita to $4 per capita. It's still, at that point, well below most of Orange County's cities, but it's a great first step to implement some of these plans. And and it's over the next 5 years. So to sum up, I'm bringing us back to the mission statement of the plan, which is that Costa Mesa would rededicate itself to that motto, that grand statement it made 35 years ago, that it's a city of the arts, and it'll be a place where creativity and creative people can flourish. Imagination, inspiration, and innovation are held in high regard. The arts are agreed to be essential to everyone's education. Arts and culture enrich lives and uplift the human spirit. And arts and culture promote civic pride. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have, or to try to answer any questions you have. But it's been a great pleasure to work on this project. And you know, we see great things happening in the future here. Whether you adopt, you know, one or two of the recommendations or adopt them all, it will move the needle for the city of Costa Mesa as far as its arts and culture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stein, for the presentation. I mean, it's been wonderful to get to see this evening, the fruition of a lot of very hard work on your behalf and partnership with the city, and also to see the good work that the Cultural Arts Committee is already doing, but also learning that we can certainly do a better job of investing in this particular role in our community. So thank you for that. Commissioners, are there any questions for Mr. Stein about the master plan? Well, Commissioner Ashendorf.
Yes. Mic is on. Okay. Hello, Mr. Stein. Good to see you.
Hello, Commissioner Ashendorf.
First, I want to make sure that everyone is aware that I serve on the Cultural Arts Committee, and I proudly served on the subcommittee for the master plan. However, going back years before there was the master plan thought, I was speaking before the Cultural Arts Committee saying, it's our time, it's our time. And today is our time. I'm really excited. So having said that, I wanted to make just a couple of comments that you might not be aware, but this has been infiltrating our community like wildfire. People really are proud to be a part of the process. And tonight, all the members of the Art Walk are meeting as we speak. All of the representatives who were there are now talking amongst themselves as a ad hoc committee that they've decided, okay, we're serious. We want to stay in Costa Mesa. We want to be a part of this vibe. And that's being led by a Costa Mesa resident who is also Orange County's first art laureate, Selena Mendoza. So we're really proud that she has stepped up to the plate and taking that on. And I also wanted to say that just to underscore the importance of the stakeholders and their input throughout this entire process, because it wasn't just their input that was important, but the buy-in for the future of Costa Mesa. And so, Rick, you did an extraordinary job. You brought along some great staff during the interview process, and I think one of the joys was the participation of the Latina community, Soy in particular, and youth throughout our city, which really helped shape the vision for this master plan. So I'll have more comments later.
Thank you, Commissioner Rutherford.
I want to second what Commissioner Ashendorf said. Thank you. This is an incredibly thoughtful and detailed plan, and I'll be excited to support it. I just had a few comments that I just wanted to add as suggestions. I did have the opportunity to be raised by two artists. My mom was a photographer and a gallery manager. My dad was a painter and a sculptor. And I also know that there's a huge community at the University of California, Irvine, Claire Trevor School of the Arts. Yes. I mean, you know, UCI is like on the border of Newport Beach. It could be UC Newport Beach, could maybe by stretch be UC Costa Mesa. I don't know. It's arbitrary. So I think that including the community at the Claire Trevor School of the Arts would be really, really important as you move forward with all the plans. Because I see under section 1.1.5, it says, engage OCC and Vanguard in exploring new opportunities. So I think it would be prudent to add Claire Trevor School of the Arts in there, and as well as in any other areas where you're going to be reaching out to stakeholders. I think there's a huge faculty community there. Some of the faculty even live in Costa Mesa. Grad students live in Costa Mesa who are going to art school there. So I think including them would be great.
That's a great suggestion.
And then I also was just thinking about grant opportunities. I mean, funding is always limited. The whole staff has been through a very arduous budget process to produce a sound and thoughtful budget for the city. So if in the plan, there's also an effort by the city to look at grant opportunities for more funding, like the California Arts Council or the National Endowment for the Arts. I mean, they give out funding for grants to other cities, and it would be awesome to see Costa Mesa getting a share of that. So those are my suggestions. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Frager.
Yes, thank you, Rick Stein. Nice to see you,
Nice to see
neighbor.
you, Kelly.
I wanted to quickly, yes, one of my comments was what Commissioner Rutherford just mentioned about the wealth of grant opportunities, and I know that's obviously in your brain and in a lot of people's brains. But I just wanted to ask a quick question, if I may. The topic of the arts as a luxury versus a basic human need has always been such a fascinating conversation for me to kind of watch tennis matches on. What was kind of the temperature as far as if that was brought up throughout the stakeholder conversations or community conversations, or kind of was there any just exploration of that topic?
Well, thank you, Commissioner Frager, for that question. There was a full range, a full spectrum of perspectives, really. You had some people who saw the apotheosis of the arts as being the Segerstrom Center and the community needing nothing else. And that was very much a minority voice, I will say, and it came from a predictable source, and not the Segerstrom Center, by the way. I think that what you find in the organizations who are home at Segerstrom Center, they want to reach out to the community far and wide. I mean, they do not want to be in an ivory tower or see themselves as elitist. So I think that's a very reassuring thing, that they want to find ways to connect. And I think then the rest of the community, particularly when it comes to the youth and children, it's like, I love to tell the story of a time when I met with Assembly Member Jim Silva in Sacramento on an advocacy trip. And I had my spiel down pat about why the arts were important. And he cut me right off and he says, listen, you don't need to preach to me. He said, I would have been in a gang if I didn't pick up the trombone and, have a life in music. He said, my life would have been ruined. And he said, it's been a success. And he said, I'm all for it. These are the real reasons. It isn't an elitist thing. It is something for everyone. And it saves lives. It keeps kids in schools. All those things that were listed as the benefits that I kind of know that you already know, and I didn't want to dwell on them so much, but they're there in the document as well. Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner DeSico.
Thank you for your work on this. This is very thorough. Like you said, it's been due for a long time to have a master plan for the City of the Arts. That was one thing I found fascinating even before I joined this commission, that we're called the City of the Arts, but I felt like there were fellow cities around us that were more dedicated to the arts than we were. So we either needed to change our motto or do something about that. So I appreciate this thorough report. I do have some questions about some of the funding ideas and allocations of dollars. It seemed like the biggest benefit the community found was to the safe and health activities for youth. So I'm glad to see there are a lot of youth programs planned in there, because it seemed like that's the most important thing to the community. So that was good. I did have questions under goal number 1, the increased free art experiences year round for all. that free park performance by local artists jumps up significantly from year 1 to year 5. Could you give me, and it says that excludes the concerts in the park, which in the summertime we do, which I think is great. But could you expand upon what that would entail in the non-summer months, and then also why that jump from year 1 to year 5 incrementally?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner, for the question. The idea was that there would be one concert in a park located in each district, and that would begin, one concert in the first year, and it would increase each year until you had a very full schedule. So that really was the basis for that.
Okay, and then, so when we're at, let's say, the 5th year of that 48,000, how many performances would that be?
I'm afraid, I thought I had that in the budget in here. It says budget 2,000 per concert, so that would be 24 concerts.
24, okay.
Yeah, 24 concerts.
And then how was that arrived at needing that number of concerts
So
by the
that would
5th
be,
year?
there are 7 districts. No, there's 6 districts in Costa Mesa. That would be 4 concerts per district per year.
Okay. Okay.
And Madam Chair, if I may, I just want to mention that the budget is a forecast. The commission is not adopting a budget or recommending a budget. This is more about the recommendations. This is just a visual so that we know what things could potentially be costing should any of these be adopted or recommended by the City Council.
Is that the City Council that would be adopting the actual fundage for these programs?
The City Council will also not be adopting any budget. The budget happens annually through the budget process. So the City Council will adopt the recommendations, the objectives, and the action steps. This is just kind of a guide to what may become a potential cost should that happen. It doesn't have to happen in this timeline. It doesn't have to happen in any specific order. It doesn't have to happen at all, depending on what the City Council's temperature is. This is more just to say, here's what you might look at should you choose to do things in a time frame such as this with a ballpark figure.
Thank you for clarifying that. I also had a question on the large-scale temporary ones under Goal 2, the last slide, that we're not spending. Approximate figure possible of 60,000 for temporary pieces that would come and go.
Yes.
But does that also include the next 2 things as well as the redesign of public amenities and permanent public art, or is that the 60,000 specifically just for the large scale?
For large scale temporary. So the permanent public art is something that there needs to be a separate funding mechanism for it, because you're getting into some real money there. And just as a point of information, it's almost always done through developer fees. Developers usually have the opportunity to opt out and put that money into an in lieu fund with the city, and then the city can accumulate that, and when they have enough money, they acquire a major piece of art. The redesign of public amenities is more as street lights and park benches are at the end of their useful life and the city starts to want to replace them, to look at imaginative designs, artistic designs for those, rather than just off the shelf. And by the way, there are some off the shelf imaginative things that are not that wildly expensive. The large-scale temporary is more along the lines of what Newport is doing, and actually we understand that there's at least one other major city in Orange County considering doing this at this point, where it would be a work of art in each district. So we talk about one in each of 3 districts per year on a 2-year loan, and then they would rotate every other year. So you'd have art spread throughout the city, and that includes not only things like the fee for the artist and honorarium, but also pouring a concrete pad if necessary, the installation costs, crane rentals, forklifts. So, some of those things, can get up there in cost, as well as a consultant fee to manage the program.
Were those things considered in the survey of what would citizens find valuable improvements to the city in terms of art?
Yes, there's a lot of interest in temporary art because you keep it fresh. So, it's wonderful to have a permanent work of art if it's really iconic, like the Richard Serra sculpture at Segerstrom Center. You love it or hate it, but, it's an iconic work of art by a major artist. Cost $1 million just to install it, I believe. And so that's great. But you also have people who say, oh, wow, there's something new there that I didn't see before, and it's fresh. And so that opportunity to rotate art out, it's become much more of a trend among city public art programs because people do want to have something fresh displayed. Yeah.
And then my last question was in terms of hiring a professional art under art staff, an art specialist.
Yes.
I really liked a lot of the lower cost, but I would think would be effective methods that you put in there, like doing the graphic design. I like that. I think that's a great idea. The artist laureate, that's a good idea. The utility boxes, I think, has been a great idea. And these have all been, those are all lower cost ideas to help improve the artistic side of our city. The Reimagine grants, and then maybe establishing the Arts Commission with, a very small stipend. I think these are all ways that are very low cost that will help push us in this direction. Why did they feel that we need a professional art staff member in addition to doing all these other areas?
Well, as one stakeholder said, and we quoted them in the document, was, the plan will fail without a staff person to drive it. It's I can't speak to the current workload of the community services staff in working with the Cultural Arts Committee and its limited programs. But when you start to increase the programs like this, and then some of the things are intangibles, that where you're not spending direct money to facilitate a local arts alliance or a creative industries council, but those things have great benefit to the community, and it requires staff time to accomplish that. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, some of these things do factor in the idea that, yes, you're hiring artists on a freelance basis, but somebody still has to contract with them and organize the concert schedule. So, it's a task that gets beyond, I think, what the existing staff can handle.
Who would be handling that if this position was not made available?
If a position is part of any of the recommendations, if that's something that happens through a future budget cycle, that person would be assigned to the Parks and Community Services Department, would fall under my supervision. Currently, Ms. Thomas, part of her, I would say maybe 25% of her role now is dedicated to the arts. Depends on the time of year. Sometimes maybe it's up to 50%, depending on what events are going on. But they would be assigned to my department. And as Mr. Stein mentioned, really to be able to implement many of these strategies is going to take additional resources. That would be at the decision of the city council and whether or not that was the direction they wanted to go into. I think, as many of you learned through the budget processes, there are many departments who have many needs. This is just one of those. But every position is a professional position. We would certainly want the arts specialist, or whatever it's going to be called, position to have an education specific to arts. Applying for grants is, it's never an easy thing, but even in a specialized field like this, it's very important. So we'd want a certain level of education, a certain level of experience, and that comes with a very competitive salary.
And I think definitely, like you mentioned, like has been mentioned up here, applying for grants could be a huge part of how to fund some of these things. Is there ever a way you could structure a salary where they would have a base salary and then an additional salary based on the number of grants that they were able to get approved?
Commissioner Seco, our union contracts don't currently allow for a structure like that. We do have some contractors that we work with who are specifically utilized for grants, and their the fee that they're paid actually is a percentage of that. So if we went a contractor route, that might be something to consider more so than a traditional staff member. However, the oversight is often different between a contractor, and they often work with other agencies as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think it certainly is clear that the arts are contagious and that, we're definitely, gaining steam in our city, and we want to continue that direction. I think that, highlighting all these opportunities really makes us recognize that we want to continue on this journey together. And in that thread, you were mentioning about partnering with the organizations at Segerstrom Hall, and I just happened to be having a conversation with a friend of mine that's the director of development at the center, and just for everyone's information, July 11th is their annual meeting, so, I think that's a really nice opportunity, and I know that the Segerstroms always throw a really nice party, so if people want to join me July 11th from 5:30 to 6:30, that's going to be an opportunity to discuss, be with other people, art-loving individuals in the city. So that's just one little opportunity. And then I also just think that it's probably prudent to mention that we are in the process of having a new museum built in the city. The county museum will be housed within the Segerstrom Center as well, which is going to be a huge benefit to the city of Costa Mesa. So I will, at this time, close commissioner comments, open public comments, and then we will move on with moving the item. So thank you very much for your presentation. I know that, wow, it's impressive how much work you did. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will open public comments at this time, and seeing, unless, would you like to make a comment? Yes, please come to the podium. Delighted to have you joining us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda Rust, and it's been very educational listening to all of you tonight. That was a wonderful presentation that you made, especially for those of us who are lovers of the arts. The only two things that I did want to say were the Segerstrom Center is a tremendous resource here in Costa Mesa, but for many people, it's not affordable. And so this idea of public art that you're presenting is something that, is open to, as was mentioned here, is something that, you kind of have to keep in mind your audience. And I really think that was something that I really thought about in terms of when he was presenting. I've been to many things at South Coast Rep. I've gone to the Segerstrom Center. I've been to the concert hall. And like I said, it's something that is not necessarily affordable to everyone. So what you're proposing sounds like a great idea. The only other thing that I would add is I have had the opportunity to work with Pacific Symphony in terms of their Arts Express program with middle school children here in Orange County. And one of the things that I've noticed is I have been coming to Orange County since Chuck Smith started Calvary Chapel in a big open field in a circus tent back, I won't tell you how many years ago, but some of you may remember that. I notice that a lot of the times when events are planned for this Arts Express program, that they have to go to quite a few outside areas to do some of their activities that they do with young people, and oftentimes it's because of cost. So some of the things that you've been mentioning tonight, I really do think that it would draw things like this program, the Pacific Symphony's Arts Express program, and other programs to come to Costa Mesa for, some of these events. But as it stands now, many of the ones that we do go to are kind of stretching. I think one of the ones we're going to go to now is all the way in San Juan Capistrano. So, keeping events a little bit more centralized and keeping them in the Costa Mesa area, to me would be very appealing. And I think it probably would be for Pacific Symphony as well. So, that was it.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you. We love it when we've got some public comments. Sometimes we feel a little lonely. Okay, so at this time, we will close public comments, and I will request a motion. I will then make the motion.
Well, I was trying to make the motion, but.
Oh, okay. Oh, let me come back to my home panel. And you are correct. You did make the motion. I apologize.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair McNabb.
And do I have a second?
Yeah.
What did I do?
So
I have a second.
We need, Madam Chair, we need to know what the motion is.
We moved to, yes, please.
Move to that the Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commission recommend to City Council the approval and adoption of the proposed Arts and Culture Master Plan.
And second.
Wonderful. Any discussion? I will call for the question.
The motion carries 5-0.
Hooray, thank you. Okay, wonderful.
Item 12, Parks and Community Services Director's Report.
Good night.
Thank you, Chair McNabb, members of the commission, and welcome to all of the new commissioners. Congratulations. The city's summer session of Recreation and Community Services activities and programs is now underway, with more than 260 classes and dozens of additional programs and event offerings. The Rocks After School program just ended last week with students going on summer break and with the school year totaling more than 1,225 students enrolled. Right on the heels of the school year program ending is the Summer Rocks program starting. Summer Rocks is held daily at the Downtown Recreation Center, Blerick Community Center, and Sonora Elementary School. All summer camp programs are also now in full swing, with Camp Costa Mesa taking place daily at Estancia Park, Camp Mini Explorers taking place at Blerick Park and Community Center, and Aqua Camp taking place at the Downtown Aquatic Center. The non-water-based camps will all take multiple excursions per week to local attractions and amusements, including weekly trips to the beach. The city's free youth running program, the Happy Feet Running Club, is in full swing with runners practicing weekly at Fairview Park, and the season will culminate by a group 5K race later this summer. The mobile recreation program served nearly 220 youth last month by bringing play, homework help, and mentorship to several neighborhoods throughout the city. The program continues to visit Shalimar Park, T. Winkle Park, Lions Park, and the Fillmore area neighborhood, and the program is also being utilized for community events that took place on the new Lions Park lawn area, as well as concerts in the park. The school year teen program wrapped up last week with more than 215 teens participating across its 3 locations. To cap off the year, teens participated in a special teen murder mystery event that was created by staff and included the traditional murder mystery themed dinner, as well as interactive games. Taking place now is the Teen Summer Camp, which operates out of the Downtown Recreation Center and is full for all weeks, with a lot of fun excursions and experiences on the horizon for the campers. Animal care services staff, along with our animal shelter and adoption service providers, saw more than 125 animals enter and exit our city animal care system during the past month, with 29 animals being adopted and 10 others being directly reunited to their owners. Our spring season of youth sports has officially come to a close, and there are some highlights to make note of. The first being the Daily Pilot Cup, which is played annually at city and school district facilities and is hosted in cooperation with the city, which saw winners from Costa Mesa schools that include Kaiser, California, College Park, Victoria, and Davis Elementaries. Also of note are the Costa Mesa American Little League Majors Division and Minor B Divisions that took home 2 Tournament of Championship titles for District 62. The Majors beat Ocean View, and the Minor B team struck out 6 in 4 innings to beat Huntington West Little League 4-2 in the championship game. The city's summer competitive adult sports leagues are now in session with 144 basketball players and 100 full softball teams playing at various city facilities. The Senior Center was very busy this last month with a robust schedule of classes, presentations, seminars, and social and wellness programs for its total membership of 2,374 members. Last month's large special event was the Mother's Day Brunch, and tomorrow they will be celebrating their Independence Day early with their annual July 4th Luau celebration, where members of the public, where members of our public safety team will be on hand to help serve meals and share experiences. In regards to community events, the department participated in the Love Costa Mesa Day event by providing 3 service projects located in both Canyon and Fairview parks. With all projects in these parks combined, more than 110 volunteers spent time giving back to the city's nature parks. Also part of Love Costa Mesa Day were the artistic paintings of 2 crosswalks that now include colorful music notes from one side of the street to the other adjacent to the new library. Staff has been hard at work providing summer programs and events on the new lawn at Lions Park, and these have included the summer kickoff event, the new Costa Mesa Art Walk, food truck events, lawn games, literature programs, crafts in the park, disc golf, and so much more. This Friday, the lawn will be activated for our first summer movie in the park, which features a free showing of the Lego Movie 2. The event is co-sponsored by Gatehouse Properties, and pre-show fun begins at 5:45 with the movie beginning at dusk. Also, as part of this year's event, now that the lawn is open, there is a pre-movie free swim. So we're calling it a flick and a movie. So the public's invited to participate in that free swim before they watch the movie. For a full schedule of Lions Park lawn events, the public can visit the city's website and search for the Lions Park event lawn schedule. This weekend, there's also a free, fun, and educational nature program and craft that focuses on the life cycle of butterflies. Staff are also working on putting the finishing touches on the city's July 3rd Independence Day celebration event that's taking place across the street for free at the Orange County Fairgrounds. The event begins at 5 p.m. with fireworks at 9 p.m. The public is invited to attend. Again, it's free, and we're really looking forward to that event. And just under 2 weeks away is the city's Summer Concerts in the Park series in partnership with the Costa Mesa Foundation, and those premiere on Tuesday, July 9th at Fairview Park. And the first concert is the DSB Band, which is a Journey cover band. And I know that we've already heard an update on the bridge shelter this evening, but I wanted to state how proud I am of the staff that provide the services to the clients there, as well as to those members of the community that are experiencing homelessness on our streets. It takes a tremendous amount of work, time, and dedication, as well as patience and compassion. So I really just want to appreciate them and say thank you on the record. With that, I conclude my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. It is amazing to listen to that report and realize how much work the city staff does on behalf of our residents. And so, wow, and thank you. It's really so wonderful to get to participate in all these events and see the public also really enjoy it. So thank you for that. Commissioner Rutherford.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Chair McNabb said about the hard work that city staff does. I just wanted to ask a quick question that was passed on by a resident who is trying to enroll their grandchild in the BFIT summer fitness program, and there was some discrepancy with what it was advertised in print materials, and then they wanted to come enroll their grandchild, and then they weren't able to enroll them. So did you get that figured out, or do you have any updates on that?
I believe so. I'd have to check in with staff. The BFIT program it's a program that operates in the hour before our Summer Rocks program at our Blair Community Center. It's administered by our youth sports staff, who will then assist with either the mobile recreation team or with the Rocks program. It does take less children. I think the max is 30, where some of our rock sites have upwards of 100 children. I'm not sure about that particular instance, but I can look into that. I think Chair McNabb, you shared that with me as well. I believe they got in. It is free, so it does fill up fast, but there are less staff allocated through the budget process to administer that program. So we want to make sure that we keep our ratios appropriate for proper oversight and safety, but we can certainly look into that.
Commissioner Ashendorf.
A couple comments. Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. Could you tell us how often the mobile van is at Lions Park, or how often you plan it to be there in that location?
Yes, Commissioner Ashendorf. The mobile recreation program currently operates twice a week out of Lions Park.
Twice a week.
Yep, so 2 times a week. However, that doesn't necessarily include when there are events there. So if there happens to be, the kickoff event perhaps was a good example where we had the van there, and they were playing games and doing activities with the kids, and they will be at traveling through many events, but a lot of the larger events that will be over there will include the mobile recreation van.
Great. One of the other items is that you did mention on page 8, the showcase, the artist showcase, and I don't know if we've ever featured that at a commission meeting, but the most recent one that was released on the artist Gabrielle, who did the painting at the library, is extraordinary, and I'd love to make sure that the commission gets to see that at a future meeting. And finally, in the packet, there's, since I'm new, I saw that there is a Parks Commission monthly report from the police department. And is that something we could get a quarterly, or, I mean, some comparison numbers, seeing what the numbers were for 1 month? I don't know how that compares to over the last 3 months, or...
Are you talking about the citation report?
Yes, yes.
So the commission will get that monthly. You can, on your own, if you wanted to, compare last month to the next month. I think that's what's traditionally been done.
Okay.
We could compile those results if that's something that the commission was interested in.
I can just discuss that, then get the information later. Thank you.
Commissioner DeSico.
I did have a question as to how is it determined whether the program is a low cost, is a no cost, or a higher cost program, as we have a lot of free ones, and I'm wondering how is that determined, and how is it determined if we would still have the enrollment rate if it was a smaller cost versus free? I mean, I could give examples of programs, but just in general.
Sure. No need to give examples, Commissioner DeSico. So the City Council has adopted what's called the Cost Recovery Guidelines for Recreation Classes, Programs, and Activity Fees. It's actually an attachment to your consent calendar item, and it talks about how much of a subsidy the City Council in the past had agreed is appropriate for certain programs. So, for example, adult programs such as instructional and classes, those are full cost. The full cost should be bared by the participant. However, the City Council has approved that many youth programs fall under either the fully supported or the mostly supported activities. So, for example, our ROCKS program, it's one of our larger programs, so I'll use that as the example, is per month, an individual with one child might pay $55 for the ROCKS program at California school. That would include up to 4 hours a day of childcare, 5 days a week across 4 weeks for $55, say. It's in that ballpark. When you compare that to a normal after-school program that is either run by a private organization or even a babysitter, the subsidy rate is somewhere between 50 and 75% of that program, which is very, very significant. What we will be doing in the next year, and the council approved this as part of their budget adoption, is to allow the finance department, and they did fund this, to allow the finance department to hire a consultant to do a comprehensive fee study across all departments and all fees to see where we can look to increase revenue, perhaps still fall within the cost recovery guidelines. The department has increased fees over the last 3 years. We didn't have any new fees this year, but we have incrementally increased fees across fly field permits, camps, the ROCKS program. Believe it or not, it used to be even less expensive several years ago. The only things that we're not currently charging for are some youth activities. The senior center membership is a free membership. But the majority of things do not have a fee. There are many youth sports in what we call our group ones who are not paying anything right now, and that's something we're going to be looking into, which I believe will be helpful to light some of our facilities and have better field improvements. So that comprehensive fee study is really going to let us know not only where we should maybe be increasing fees, maybe decreasing fees in some areas, but how we line up against our competitive cities so that we can still attract a really strong customer base, still stay affordable, that's really important, but make sure we're doing it in a sustainable fashion.
Thank you. That answers that question. I also have, if I could recommend after this consultant completes that, whether it's determined if it's a free program, is it possible to add a donation button where they could donate to certain ideas, like you said, sports fields or lights or other areas that they could donate? And also, if it's changed from a free one to a cost one, is there a way for someone who maybe that is now a financial burden for them to get some sort of scholarship to that?
It's a great question. We already actually have a process in place for that through the Costa Mesa Foundation, which was mentioned earlier. There is a recreation account that people can donate to, and people do regularly donate to that account. We did just get a $2,500 donation from the Costa Mesa Community Run Foundation to be geared specifically towards youth programs. And with that comes the ability for folks who may have a hard time being able to afford our programs. They can apply through the Costa Mesa Foundation for a grant one time per year and be able to utilize some of that money for whether it be a gymnastics class or a piano lesson or whatever it might be.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner Rutherford.
I just wanted to add one quick question, Mr. Martin, about Costa Mesa Municipal Code 4.3, the requirement for bike licenses. I just noticed in the police report, because I totally agree with Commissioner Ashendorf, it would be nice to have comparison numbers just to see any trends over time. Because I happen to think it's totally ridiculous that bicycles require a license and a license plate if somebody wants just to go buy a bike and ride around. As soon as I learned about this, I immediately stopped riding my bike because I do not have a license plate on it. So I think that disencourages people from using their bikes, and then people getting citations, they're just going to stop using their bike. So maybe that's something we can address in the future.
It's definitely something we can look into. I do know that a bicycle is classified as a vehicle, and that's why it requires that license. I can tell you that if to be able to cite someone on a bicycle, the person actually has to physically be there. So if your bike is in a park in Iraq and it doesn't have the permits or the license, there is no citation because you can't cite a vehicle without a person. So that was something that I had a discussion with some park rangers on, but it's definitely something that we can look into in the future. There also, in regards to bicycles, it was a discussion was kind of had about if there are not enough bike parks in Iraq, bike racks in a park, can you cite someone for chaining their bicycle to the tree? The answer is no. We have to be able to provide signage as well as adequate storage for your bike before we would ever consider a citation or a warning.
Okay, I appreciate that because I checked the California Vehicle Code and it says it's only optional. It's purely optional for cities to require license plates or not. So I thought that was interesting for us to consider.
Commissioner DeSiegel.
Who would we speak to about changing that possible classification or possibly removing that as an infraction?
So you speak to me first, so you're in the right place. Okay. What we will be having over the next couple of months is we're going to have a presentation by park rangers so that they can go through what they're seeing in our parks, talk about maybe some challenges that they're having or some successes that they're having in our park system here, especially with the opening of the new bridge shelter. We're seeing different things throughout different locations in our community, so we will have a presentation by representatives from PD our public safety folks who are park rangers, and it'll address some of those questions as well. That's where we would start. Eventually, if it was something that we always want to study something before we decide we would want to make a recommendation to change an ordinance or a rule. We never just change one of those for the principles of wanting to change something and that needs to be warranted. So we'd review that first, certainly engage park rangers and look at the facts and the statistics and start there.
Thank you very much. And I see no one else in the queue. My last comments are that on my park tours, I did get to see at Estancia Park the summer programs underway with all the kids, and it really is great energy there in the parks and everything. So we're grateful for those opportunities for kids to recreate in our parks over the summer. At this time,
I did just want to mention one more thing. Now that school is out, we want to make sure that everyone's driving safely. There's more children on the streets during the daytime, so be aware of that. Also, sunscreen and water. I often preach that. Make sure you're applying your sunscreen and drinking your water. And just to remind the community that the Chargers are back, and they're going to be hosting their summer training camp starting mid-July at Jack Hammett Sports Complex. The schedule was just released. Staff has been meeting with them almost on a weekly basis now to get all of the details worked out. They're having 13 open practices at our Jack Hammett Sports Complex, which brings tourism to our city, which brings revenue to our businesses, and also brings some really positive media to the city. They are also doing new this year a Monday night open practice, which will mimic kind of a Monday night football theme. So that's something that we're looking forward to. That's on August 12th, but we're excited to have them back. And in final closing is our new city manager. We'll be beginning her start date is Monday, so we look forward to welcoming her to the city as well.
marvelous. Thank you so much. At this time, we are adjourned. Happy 4th of July, and the next meeting is Thursday, July 25th. Thank you very much. Good evening.